And they say every haunting starts with a story, a moment when reality cracks and something else steps through. Welcome to Paranormal or Reality, where we bring you the most chilling true ghost stories from around the world. Some say these are just tales, others know better. Let's begin. I'm in sales, and Las Vegas is part of my territory. Although I don't live there, I spend a lot of time there for work and need to keep my hotel bill under a certain amount in order for my company to reimburse me. The Luxor is affordable, has good valet parking, and is close to my work event. Plus, I've never stayed there before, so it probably has some dated charm. I thought, why not? When I walked into the lobby, I felt a mix of unease and curiosity. The Egyptian theme is so outdated, but the architecture was so ambitious for its time that it's hard not to appreciate it. I got to my room and started laughing. This is the worst hotel I've ever stayed in, by far. It was built in '93, but for some reason feels much older. I always get a room with 2 queen beds wherever I stay, because hotels routinely skimp on blankets. So I take the blankets from one bed and bring them to the other so I'm cozy. I do not bring over any pillows, since I have enough, and wouldn't be able to lay down comfortably with 6 huge pillows. Anyways, I woke up early, worked out in my room, and showered. Housekeeping knocked on my door while I was getting ready, and I had to yell for her to hear that the room was still occupied. That's kind of annoying. So I put a do not disturb sign on my door handle, which stayed there for the entirety of my stay. Right as I got ready, the fire alarm went off. This is the first time this has happened at any hotel I've ever stayed at, I thought. While evacuating, security told me that our elevator was shut off, but the opposite sides was still functional, meaning the alarm was triggered somewhere on my side of the resort. I had to take the fire escape down from the 12th floor. I Googled Luxor fire alarm, and I guess this happens a couple of times every month. I wondered if this was the case with every hotel in Vegas, but chalked it up to it being so cheap, attracting a lot of rowdy guests. I came back to my room a few hours later to meditate and clear my head for a work event. I went straight to the window to check out the view. Then I looked at my bed. For some reason, the pillows from the guest bed were stacked up, parallel on top of each other, 3 high on my bed. Nothing was stolen, and I'm not sure if anything else was misplaced. I wouldn't have remembered the previous location of any other objects in my room, but I knew for a fact that I didn't do this. It kind of creeped me out at first, but then I thought security probably was looking for the cause of the fire alarm and checked my room, even though I had a do not disturb sign. Then I thought, but why would something that triggered a fire alarm be under the pillows of the guest bed? And why would they stack them up so neatly on my bed? But I was there for an important work event and was trying to relax before it. So I had better things to focus on. I dimmed the curtains, lay down, and took deep breaths. 20 minutes in, my manager called me and said he needed me to cover a meeting for him. In a rush, I threw on my things and left, not touching anything else in my room, and leaving the curtains closed. I didn't come back until after my work event. I got back to my room around 11. I opened the door, and something felt off. The curtains were wide open. I knew I hadn't left them that way, and again, nothing was stolen. This freaked me out, but I was trying to mentally justify it. I thought, I just turned up the AC this morning and the windows are diagonal. Maybe the draft opened them on its own. Or maybe I could have done it without remembering, opening the windows on autopilot and forgetting I did it. I had to talk myself into sleep that night. I told myself it was just my ADHD and that I must have opened the curtains, but when I thought of what the room looked like when I was leaving earlier, it was dim. That scared me, and I had to switch my mental channel. I imagined myself opening the curtains and forgetting, and pictured that so many times that it seemed plausible. I didn't shower that night out of fear that if something was messing with me, it might take me being naked, wet, and vulnerable as an opportunity to escalate. I prayed hard, while constant bumping and tapping occurred throughout the night. I chalked up the noises to loud, unruly neighbors, but the whole time, I never saw anyone leave or enter any of the rooms around me. In the morning, I looked at the curtains. They were still closed. It wasn't a draft that opened them yesterday. I got on a call with my team and said I was excited to leave because there weird things kept happening. They asked what I meant, and I told them everything. One of my colleagues, who was a Vegas local, told me, the Luxor is notorious for being haunted and cursed, and this is a well-known thing people have said about staying there. As I was leaving, I ran into a security guard outside the elevator and asked her if security goes into rooms, even if they have the Do Not Disturb sign on, if the fire alarm is going off to see where it originated. She basically said they can do that on paper, but she doesn't remember a time they have done that. I told her about the pillows, then about the curtains being open, and she wasn't giving me anything. So I straight up asked her if the place was haunted. She told me no, and that she's never heard that, and no one's ever reported that to her. I thought, weird. Maybe my coworker just knows a couple of people who are exaggerating. Maybe all this stuff was in my head. I asked the front desk about security going into rooms, and she said, no, never. I then asked about guests reporting objects moving in their rooms when they're gone. She again said no, never. She had never heard that, wasn't giving an inch. I then said, all right, be straight with me. Is this place haunted? Have any other guests ever reported unexplainable things happening in their rooms? She said, no, never. Haven't heard that from any guests. That's terrible. Somebody moved your stuff around. You should file a report. I smiled and said I was fine because nothing was stolen. I then Googled, is the Luxor Hotel haunted? If nothing popped up, I would have dropped it. But boy, it was obvious at this point that employees there are trained to gaslight. Ghosts are bad for business. Not only is this a common experience among guests at the Luxor, but it's one of the most common experiences among travelers. It's incredibly well known and documented as a paranormal hotspot. I'm glad I didn't know this while I was staying there, or else I wouldn't have been able to sleep. In the Google search results, the fourth result was a 3-star review about the 12th floor being haunted. I stayed on the 12th floor. Not only did I stay there, but my room was the closest to the elevator, right in the middle of the 12th floor, the most 12th floor room on the 12th floor, if you will. I guess this place has been cursed from the very beginning, with lots of people passing away during construction, mafia disappearance, buried beneath the property, allegedly, and accidental falls from safety hazards on some of the attractions. I heard the shape of the resort doesn't help, but I'm no expert. Never staying at that place ever again. Glad it's getting demolished in 2026. Good riddance. Religious mission abroad in Venezuela. This particular experience happened when I was about 20 years old. While I wouldn't consider myself, then or now, an overtly religious or spiritual person, largely, I think I did this mission due to societal and family pressures and expectations. Our ghostly visitor, who appeared over the course of 3 nights, continues to leave me shaken. This all took place in the coastal town of Carúpano, Venezuela. 4 of us, all male and around the same age, lived in the same apartment, which happened to be directly above a bakery. It was so long ago, but I believe this was likely the one. This is the only detail of the story that's a bit fuzzy to me, as I only stayed in that town an apartment for about 2 weeks. The apartment had a small dining and sitting area that was open to the kitchen when you walked in, and then a single hallway to the right. The first door on the left was the only bathroom. The second door on the left was a bedroom with 2 twin mattresses and 1 tiny window at the top of the room between them. There was no working fan or AC unit, and it was extremely hot at night. Because of that, the four all slept in the largest room, which was directly across the hall from that one. There were 2 actual beds, one next to the door and the other along the adjacent wall, and then my companion and I simply laid our mattresses on the tan, large format tile floor. One morning, while my assigned companion, we went out in pairs, as missionaries typically do, and I were walking down the street, he sheepishly asked if he could share something with me. I told him, of course, but he hesitated at first. After a bit of encouragement, he told me that when he woke up during the night, he looked over and saw what appeared to be a spirit, a man, sleeping next to me. Interestingly, I told him that during the night I had a dream in which a man wearing what looked like an Asian conical hat and carrying a backpack tapped on the bars of our apartment door. Weary from his travels, he asked if he could rest and stay with us for a while. I agreed and let him in. The other missionary asked if we should share this with the other 2. Dismissing it as a weird coincidence and not really believing there was any truth to it, I told him not to worry about it and that it wasn't worth mentioning. It's important to know that as missionaries, we were rarely separated, and for the remainder of that day and evening, he had no contact with the others. That night, after getting ready for bed, I went to the shared room, laid my mattress down, and began to drift off to sleep. 3 of us had already gone to bed. The 4th, unaware of our previous conversation, was in the bathroom brushing his teeth. As I lay there, I began to hear voices. Their number and volume quickly increased until it sounded as if I were standing in the middle of a large, noisy crowd. I started rolling back and forth, wondering if I was losing my mind. I couldn't take it anymore and was about to call out for help when the missionary who had been in the bathroom burst through the door, slamming it shut behind him. Eyes wide with fright, he said in his native Spanish, "There's something out there. Something is in our apartment." None of us dared to leave the bedroom. We shared our earlier story with the other 2 missionaries. One of them said a prayer, and the rest of the night passed without further incident. On the morning after the third night, the fourth missionary, who had not personally experienced anything, told us that during the night he saw someone leave the apartment. He and I were Americans. The other two were Venezuelans. We pressed him for more details. He said he saw the figure stand up from where I was sleeping on the floor, reach for the doorknob, open the door quietly, and walk out, shutting it behind him. His bed was right next to the door, and none of us had left the room that night. I don't believe he was mistaken in what he saw. I then shared that during that same night, I had another dream in which our visitor stood above me where I was sleeping while adjusting his conical hat. He thanked me for allowing him to stay and rest, but said he needed to continue on his journey. I watched him leave the room in the exact manner described by the other missionary. I haven't actively attended church in over 5 years. I don't concern myself much with ghosts or spiritual matters, but this experience continues to leave me wondering.
Make sure to like and subscribe. If you have any stories you would like to share with us, our email is in the description. Let's continue.